1:15.
Nice.
Yep.
And you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. We just want to make sure everybody
You
can.
are screen sharing and you are recording. It looks like you are ready to go.
Okay, 1 more minute, countdown.
Yep.
All I need now is like a huge storm to come through and Sutton loses power and we get to do that again. That was my nightmare last night, just to share with everybody. I've been working on this presentation for a couple days now, and that was last night's nightmare of just big storm, tree gets knocked down, and all of Sutton loses power, and I go home and hang out with the dog. But that's not going to work. We're going to get started now. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for joining me tonight. I know that this time has been really precocious at best. Lots of information coming every single day. I do have to thank the whole middle school staff. This has been a journey for all of us. They've been incredible. We've been sharing out information. I have never been so intrusive in their lives that in the 12 years I've been the principal. I mean, I've been calling people, I've been sharing everything. So, you know, this whole presentation you're going to see tonight is a compilation of everybody in the middle school's thoughts, information, just to make the school year the best year that we could possibly offer kids. And it truly gives the new meaning to "It Takes a Village," because it really did take a village to put this whole thing together. I'd also like to thank Ann Korn, our new assistant principal, who is going to be taking care of the chat. She's going to be taking care of me to make sure I don't go too fast, to slow down, to take a breath. She'll be stopping me as I go if there are questions in the chat. What I know there's going to be a ton of questions. I know that for sure. But please hold off to your questions, because I'm sure they're probably going to be the majority of answered in this presentation. But if there's a slide and I don't get it for you, could
Hold
you
on.
please? Oh,
Let me just mute that individual.
okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. So if there's a slide and you have a particular question about that slide, by all means, please put the question in the chat and will stop me, and I'll try to answer it the best I can. So here we go. So our agenda tonight is to talk about the priorities of the middle school. I want to give you the update of what do we know, what we don't know. I want to talk to you about health and safety updates that we've been getting on a daily basis, the things that we considered in building our thoughts for next year, a daily schedule proposal, the weekly schedule proposal, and then time for your questions and comments. Okay. So our first priority is really about the health and safety of our students and staff. We really were thoughtful about how the building looked, how when we invite students back into our building, how do we keep them safe? The second thing is we really thought about relationship building. We were fortunate that we knew our kids in March, that when we sent them home, we knew them as students. We're going to be coming in September with brand new kids in front of us that we don't know as students, we don't know them as learners. So our priority after safety is to really get to know our kids. We need to spend time with them to get to learn who they are, and then we can start talking about curriculum. But the first priority, as always, is going to be safe and healthy of both the staff and the students. We have to build relationships with our kids, and then we can talk about curriculum. And lastly, flexibility is gonna have to be key, because there are going to be so many moving parts as we start the school year that things may change as we go along.
Because they are like different sizes?
Oops. I'm sorry. If you have a question, please type it into the chat.
Okay.
Sorry.
Andy, come here.
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, the best way would probably just be to give him the Zoom number so he can put it in on his iPad.
I muted
On
him.
the telephone, and then you can hang up on the telephone.
No, I can still hear. I'm just gonna mute all again, Jerry, and then you can unmute, okay?
Okay. Okay, I'm
All right.
back.
Perfect, thank you. Sorry about that.
So in addition to relationships, we also need to focus on students' social and mental health and emotional health. And we want to continue our SAMS meeting, our student assistant meetings. And those are going to be key in working with the kids right away, because kids have been isolated for a long time. And that might come up a lot when we start working with our kids. Okay. So what do we know? We know that the state has asked us to prepare 3 models. A full, everybody in, a hybrid model, and a remote model. About a week ago, I had school site council members, I had members of the PTO, I had instructional assistants, I had teachers come in, and I had them break into 3 different groups and tell me what did they think that the full model would look like, a hybrid model, the remote model, and from what their recommendations were is what I came up with and submitted to Ted, who will be submitting it to the state. More than likely, Mr. Friend has assured me that we're probably going to start with the hybrid model as one of the options. We're still waiting on things like athletics. What does transportation look like? What are the health and safety guidelines as they constantly change? What does band and chorus look like next year? We have fought really hard to keep music in our schools. It would be really sad to say we're not going to offer band and chorus. Parents have invested in instruments, and kids have invested in the time to learn that instrument. We might not be able to play that instrument in school, but we certainly can keep our music education going. So it's going to look very, very different. Okay, so these were the recommendations that came from our health department, as well as our nursing staff. And we rely on them, and they rely on the health updates that come through. In the future, we will be having a meeting with the community to go over more of the specifics that need to be addressed. But there are probably lots of questions of, what does that look like for my kid? What happens if another kid gets sick? So just to fill you in, this is what Michelle Donovan and the Department of Health have come up with. So if students are sick, they're going to be sent home immediately and referred to their physician. Students who test positive are home for at least 10 days. They have to have 3 days in a row of fever-free and reduction of symptoms. Anybody who's in close contact with that person needs to be notified right away and will need to be tested after 5 days of quarantine, or they quarantine for 14 days. In all cases, parents will be notified of students in close contact with somebody who tests positive for COVID. If a student or staff tests positive, it may not result in the shutdown of school. I know there was a lot of rumors that if somebody was sick in our school, we would close down for 3 days. That's not necessarily true. And it really comes down to looking at how the health of our building is with students in it. And if there is an outbreak, the Department of Public Health will be the person who calls it, as far as students who may end up testing positive for COVID. Any questions on this one?
There are no questions in the chat at this time.
Okay. All right, so when we looked at the hybrid model, we really thought about what is this going to look like? And contractually, teachers don't have to come to school and be in their classrooms until 7:20. So we wanted to move the start of school to 7:20. So all students can start arriving to school at 7:20 and between 7:20 and 7:40. Parents, the majority of parents we feel are going to be bringing their kids to school, which is really easy because if anybody's been in the parking lot, it's pretty, easy to be 6 feet away. As students come by buses, we'll release a bus one at a time and try to keep as much as possible 6 feet away. We're all gonna have to wear our beautiful masks all day long. We will be having mask breaks during the day so that we don't have to wear them all day. I don't know how you guys feel, but I've worn a mask for 30 minutes and it got unbearable. So we really have to consider both students and staff to just take off that mask, take a breath, wipe your face, and then be able to go back on to do our day. We also need to have time so that we can clean and disinfect between the transitions so that students will come in. You know, I don't want to depend, I personally, as a student, wouldn't want to depend on the kid that I'm sitting down in that desk. I want to make sure that that desk is clean. I'm going to clean it. So there may be, you know, we're going to have a little dry time on those tables, so the teachers may do an activity while the desks are drying. Students will have to have assigned seats in all classes. Lunch will be at least 6 feet apart. We've kind of figured out the lunch thing. And we've also figured out how to keep kids 6 feet apart in the classrooms. We're going to be removing a lot of furniture and sharing out the furniture with the high school that have individual desks. All our desks are double wide. Those are all coming out of our rooms, and we're only going to replace those with single seated desks. When we thought about kids coming and going into our buildings, we really want them to exit through what we're going to call grade level doors. For example, 6th graders are all going to come in the main building through the main entrance. They're going to go into the cafeteria, up the staircase, and then into the 6th grade wing that's upstairs. We've moved 4 classrooms so that we could create a 7th grade wing and an 8th grade wing. So we're going to be asking 8th graders to come into the nearest outside door by like where Mrs. Hurley, if anybody's familiar with our school, that end. And 7th graders are going to walk all the way around, and they're going to go into the building by where, like, we consider it the band door. So where that walkway that goes to the elementary school, that door there would be for 7th graders. All students have to be out of the building by 2:05, no exceptions. We really need to give our custodian staff time to clean the building for the next day. Ann, any questions?
Yes, we have some questions coming in. I answered this one in the chat, but just in case anybody didn't see it, who will be providing the COVID test? Is Sutton providing them or the kids' primary care physicians?
That's a great question. I have no answer to that. So if we could keep a running tab of questions I don't know.
Right.
Well, I have an answer to that.
Thanks,
the
Mr. Friend.
The Sutton Public Schools will not be providing testing. So that would be a conversation that parents would have to have with their primary care physicians.
Thank you. What symptoms will require a student to stay home? Obviously cough and fever, but what about a headache or a stomach ache?
I'll just answer that real quick, Mr. Goyette. Michelle Donovan and Cheryl Rowinski, they have just come out with the latest guidance from the state. They've been paying attention to this for the last 3 or 4 months. So they've put together a fact sheet for all parents. And in that fact sheet that every parent will have available to them are the list of symptoms that you have to pay attention to. And if your child has any of those symptoms, then you will keep your child home. So I don't want to go through that list because I can't think of all the things, but the list is probably 8 or 9 different symptoms that you'll have to be paying attention to.
Great, thank you. Where will the mask breaks take place?
Mask breaks are going to have to take place either outside or in the courtyard. We're very lucky that 3 of our classrooms are located right on the courtyard. We also might be doing a lot of outside learning. So if it's a nice day, it's not too hot, we could bring the kids outside and have class there, and then it's not a problem to take off the mask, put it back on.
Great. Will lunch be in the cafeteria?
So we've worked out lunch so that all of our big round tables are going to be taken out. All our double desks that we currently have in the classroom are going to be placed in the cafeteria, and we're going to make sure that they're 6 feet apart. All the students are facing the same way. Students will be told, okay, you can go up into the line, you can go to the line, you can go to the line, and we're going to have to do it rapid fire like that. The cafeteria is planning on putting everything in boxed lunches. So if it's chicken nugget day, you're going to just go up, you're going to grab your box of chicken nuggets and grab a pack of utensils, and you're going out the door. We have a new system for punching in your number. We're not going to be punching in numbers anymore. And that's how we're going to try to run through lunch as quickly as possible. There's time in between, and I'll get to the lunch schedule, but there's time in between each lunches to clean the desk so that students, when they get to that desk, it's been thoroughly cleaned. We are doing 3 lunches, so it's not going to be like it was in the past where we had everybody, which breaks my heart because it's great to see everybody at lunch talking and enjoying each other's company, but that's not how lunch is going to look this year.
Well, I want parents to be realistic about what lunch is going to look like. We have to remember that these children are 12 and 13 years old. And at 12 and 13 years old, they don't really talk to adults. They only talk to each other. And so what I don't want to do is create an environment, and I know Mr. Goyette doesn't want to do this, where our teachers and our administrators are walking through a cafeteria like it's Shawshank Redemption. We want to realize that kids are kids, and this will be a time where they're going to be able to relax, have lunch. We're going to request that they, don't turn around, but kids are going to be kids, and you need to recognize that. So when you send your child to school, know that we're not going to put kids in a 6-foot bubble and they're magically going to stay in that bubble. And we're going to tell children you need to face forward while you're eating lunch. We need to be sensitive and thoughtful about how we treat our children during this time. And what we don't want to do is create a situation where we're causing more harm than good for our children. So you just need to know when you send your child, it's not going to be this perfect environment where every kid's 6 feet apart and they're facing forward like some dystopian movie we watch every day about adolescence today. So I just want to make everybody aware that let's be realistic about what our middle school will look like in the fall.
There are still some more questions in the chat. Some of these questions will be answered later on in the presentation. So I'm going to skip to the ones that are in this health and safety and general guidelines. So if we paid for busing, will we be reimbursed if our child does not take the bus?
So I plan on well, first of all, the answer to that question is yes. If you're not taking the bus, you get your money back. But I'm also going to address this very issue at our next school committee meeting, because obviously if your child is coming by bus 2 days a week, we're not going to be charging people $180 to take the bus. So I don't want to tell you what my plan is until I talk to the school committee, but we're obviously not going to charge people $180, and we'll certainly reimburse any parent. Same thing with, well, this doesn't apply to your students that are not driving yet, but same with parking at school.
Thank you. What type of masks will be allowed?
That's a great question. There's tons of masks out there, but that's something I'll probably have to work with Michelle Donovan as far as, a guideline, a very loose guideline of what should those masks look like.
Right, and just a question that's come up in previous meetings, will families have to provide masks for their students?
No.
Yes, no.
Yes.
The answer to that is yes. Parents need to provide masks for their students.
Okay.
One of the questions, I've been on 5 of these meetings now, and so I've heard all of these questions. There'll be a question, can a child wear a face shield? They can wear a face shield only if they have a gaiter that's attached to the face shield and goes down into their shirts. There is still a question about gaiters and whether gaiters are will be able to be used. I'll get clarification from Michelle on that. But I think what I'd suggest is a nice, comfortable cloth mask. These throwaway masks that we have. So if a child doesn't bring a mask, we have masks that we can provide for them. But those masks get very itchy very quickly. So looking to get, a couple of different cloth masks that, they can wear, and then they're washed each night, and they can wear and get 3 or 4 masks for the students would make a lot of sense for parents.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Who is responsible for cleaning and disinfecting the desks, etc., between transitions?
So one of 2 things can happen. Either the teachers can spray down the desks, or the kids can come in, grab a wipe down their desks, and I would say probably wipe down their desks as they leave. But, that's a detail we're going to have to work out with the teachers, because what makes most sense.
Great. You might answer this at the end of the presentation. Are there going to be clubs this year?
So middle school is a culture, and yes, there definitely are going to be virtual clubs. My absolute favorite is Miss Martell's Cooking Club. That one was a big hit this past year.
It was.
We'll still try to do like a hybrid, a trivia thing. We'll try to get bingo off the ground again, just to kind of try to keep things as normal as we possibly can through the pandemic.
Yeah, the trivia thing was a lot of fun. Will the lavatory be cleaned more than once per day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And ladies and gentlemen, each night we're going to be hiring 2 part-time custodians, one for the Early Learning Center Elementary, one for the middle and high school. Those custodians' sole responsibility will go through. We have these fog machines and disinfect all surfaces in the rooms. That will take place every single evening. And then on Wednesdays, there'll be a deeper cleaning because they'll begin at 11 o'clock and go to 10 o'clock at night each week. So not only will it be cleaned between students going in and out of the rooms, but each evening as well.
Okay. So there was a question about hiring additional custodial staff, and that is a yes. Question, why not circulate the teachers instead of the kids to minimize exposure?
So middle school kids have to move. I can't imagine kids sitting in a room like elementary school all day long and have the teachers rotate through. I think kids really need a break. They need to get up. They need to move. And I think they need new environments every 45 minutes. They need to see a different face with a different room. I just think it's a little healthier for the kids, mental-wise.
Sure. How will dismissal and pickup work?
So well, let's go ahead and answer that. So we'll be dismissing by bus for those bus students. Students will leave by the doors that they came in through. And then the car part, the parent pickup part, we're gonna have to figure that out. That's gonna be a good question. We're just gonna have to figure that out.
And I do know middle school kids that ride in with a high school sibling will work it out so they can all be dismissed at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens if a parent refuses to get a COVID test? This has happened in other districts, and the student was told that they had to stay out for 10 to 14 days.
That's exactly what the previous slide said. So if they do not get a COVID test, they're out for 14 days, probably 10 school days, plus the 2 weekend days.
Same policy, great. Are students mulling in the halls during transition and disinfection?
No. So I'll get to that when we look at the schedule for kids and what that looks like.
Great. What happens if students do not wear the masks?
They go home.
How will the lunches work with the high school using the same cafeteria, especially if there are 3 lunch shifts?
They are not going to be in the cafeteria. They're using the big gym.
Yep, high school is in the big gym. If we haven't signed up for the bus at this time, will we be able to, once the return to school plan has been established?
So I'll take that, Mr. Goyette.
Yeah.
So we were hoping to get a survey out this week, but it looks like it'll be going out early next week. We're going to look for parents to give us a final decision about taking the bus. In the previous survey, between 60 and 65% of parents said they planned on transporting their children. We will need an exact number from parents that they plan on taking the building next week so that we can start building the bus routes and actually knowing how many buses we will need. So if you didn't sign up, no problem. When you get that survey, please just fill out the survey that you intend to take the bus. I'm not going to worry about bus fees right now or anything like that. Let's just try to figure out how we get kids to school each day. So if you want to take the bus, just sign on up.
Okay. And there's just a question here. Can the bus fee be separated for fall and spring? So just something.
What I'm going to tell you is I wouldn't worry about the bus fee. Okay.
Perfect.
That's the least of your worries right now. And I don't think it makes a lot of sense to have a bus fee next year. And that's what I'm going to say to the school committee on August 10th.
Okay. Will the mask breaks be strategically placed in between their classes?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Do you know whether ski club will still be happening?
I would probably say ski club is probably out, but who knows? But you know, that's who knows. I would love to still offer ski club. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do like the bus, but maybe who knows if Wachusett's even going to open. So not sure about that one.
Going down the list of questions, we're going to talk about the hybrid model in 1 second and the days that kids can come in. We're also going to talk about transitions and extra time in the schedule. We're going to talk about that in 1 minute. Okay. Will we have to make a full year decision about busing, or are you just planning for the fall or winter?
Mr. Friend?
So if you plan on taking the bus on day one, please put that in. If you turn around and the end of September, you say, you know, it's just not worth it, I'll drive my child in, that's fine. I wouldn't worry about that. If you think you're going to take the bus, please do that. If you change your mind before school starts, no worries, don't worry about it. But we need to get started on making these bus routes. My guess is that we're going to have less bus routes because in all likelihood, we're going to a hybrid model. That means half the students coming at any one time and 60% driving the students in, which will mean we'll probably have a significant reduction in buses. So that's why I need to know, and I need to know that from a budget standpoint. I need to know how much money we can possibly save in busing so we can reallocate resources to other needs going forward this year.
There's another reference to a hybrid model question. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, so I will come back to that. If children are responsible for cleaning, what precautions are being taken regarding chemicals used to clean?
We will be providing to families a list of the chemicals that we use so that parents can see exactly what's in the chemicals we use. We have two different options, you know, just like those Clorox wipes that you have at home. And the other way we can do it is to have spray bottle solutions for our teachers to spray down the desks. And we had a meeting on this earlier this week, and we're still debating which is the best way to go. Because if you use the spray bottle, it takes about 5 to 7 minutes for the stuff to dry. According to Roger Raymond, it's very safe. It's nothing harmful to children, but if I was a parent, I'm sure I'd want to know exactly what we're using for chemicals or cleaning supplies.
Thank you. Okay, so I know we have a couple questions to come back to, but I'm just gonna let Mr. Goyette continue the presentation. Some of those questions might be answered.
Okay, so for the master schedule proposal for the next year, the committee The teachers and myself all thought that a 7-period day made the most sense. Of course, that's all subject to change, but right now we are really thinking it's a 7-period day, and here are the reasons why. I think for the first and foremost, it's the easiest thing for kids to know. I go to period 1, I go to period 2, I go to period 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, my day is done. There's no drop, there's no, oh, do I have English today? It's just consistent, and we just constantly go period 1 through 7. It also maximizes teachers' space time, so there is no drop. We keep the electives, and one of the things to keep minimizing cross-contamination is we've decided that the elective teacher is going to be the elective teacher for the grade. Hopefully we can get through the first rotation and then ask the Department of Health what their recommendation is. So I would love to be able to switch, but it's hard when we talk about cross-contamination grade levels. We don't want the art teacher who, let's say, is assigned to 7th grade, and then they go to 6th grade. Well, now we've just, if she's been in contact with a COVID 7th grader, now we've just spread it to a COVID to 6th graders, and we don't want to do that. And also, if we do go to remote 100%, it's the easiest schedule for kids to transition to. And I'm going to get to your examples just to kind of show you what that would look like as a kid would come into our building. What does that look like? So I need to move this over to here. So if you're an 8th grader, and let's just say you start your day in history, you're going to then go to your 2nd period elective, which is Mrs. Hurley for STEM. Then you're going to go to foreign language, to English, to math, to science, and then period 7 is like either band and chorus, academic support, a guided study potentially. But when you look at the flow of that, we are going to use those rooms that have double doors. So where, like in Mr. Waterhouse and where Mr. Trolio was, there's a door in between their rooms. So the kids won't transition out the hallway. They'll transition through that doorway. So we're going to be controlling the flow of kids from one room to the next. Same thing with 7th grader. We've asked Mr. Sharon to move over to where Miss Myra was. We've asked Miss Sugarman to switch classrooms with Mr. Trolio. So that way there's an 8th grade wing, there's a 7th grade wing. So again, we really thought carefully of how the flow works, of where kids start their day, how they get to the next classroom, and how we can transition all those kids safely to move through the classrooms with the least amount of contact as possible. That 7 period, for now, we're just hoping for band, chorus, academic support, and then those kids who are left over would have a potential guided study. I'm thinking also that could be a Genius Hour for kids who are interested in participating in a Genius Hour project. It could also be an extra help where I need help with Mr. Waterhouse, I need help with Mr. Trolio, where we can call Mr. Trolio and say, is it okay if I send in Johnny? And she can prepare to kind of like remotely 6 feet help that student. So that's what kind of the 8th and 7th grade looks like. 6th grade is pretty much the same. We've really looked at how that flow will happen and putting band and chorus in that 6 period block, and they would be offered health for the year.
Okay.
Any questions so far, Ms. Corrin?
I have a few. They're kind of a mix of questions. This is back to health and safety protocols. Has germicidal lighting been explored?
Mr. Friend?
That was discussed. They're still getting more information on that. But that was discussed last week, and we're looking to see if there's more information and does it make sense, and we'll look at the cost of that. One of the things we were talking about with that, and believe me, I know very little about it, so I probably shouldn't be talking about it, but for the materials that students use, especially in the lower grades, with the elementary book libraries, can use light to kill the virus. So we're looking at that. We have Cheryl Rowinski, Roger Raymond, Michelle Donovan, that team of folks working on the health and safety. They are looking at that.
Okay, thank you. Next question. I can drive my kids in, but I can't pick them up. Could the school help us connect to kids on our street to carpool?
Mr. Friend?
Well, what I would say is, I don't know the answer to that. I think we'd have to get back to you. My instinct would be to say yes, because let's face it, this is going to be crazy. Okay, this is just going to be one nutty year, and we're going to have to help parents out. Parents, I feel for the parents out there trying to figure out how they're going to pick their kids up, drop off, cover them when they're doing remote. And so my first instinct is to tell you that we're going to help you in any way we can. I just want to make sure that that there's a health issue or a major health concern if we say yes to that. The flip side of that argument is, when those kids go home into the neighborhood, they're going to be talking to each other. They're going to be walking down the street together. I've driven through the neighborhood. So we also have to be realistic about what life is like outside of school. So it's a maybe, I guess, in a long-winded answer to that question. It's a maybe. And I'll talk further with the principals about how we handle that.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, if we did do that, it would be the parents working that out and you notifying the school. So if we agreed to that, we would be looking for you to tell us exactly how you want your child brought home.
Okay. Will grades be given, or will it be pass fail?
So we're going to get to that in the other slides, but
Okay.
yeah, we're going to do regular grading system again. We're going back to the A, B, C, D, F. We're going back to, this is when this work is due. The teachers, I thought, were very flexible. They're always flexible. Whenever it comes down to the end of the quarter, we always do that rapid, hey, you still owe X, Y, and Z. I'm willing to take X, Y, and Z. Missing work is missing work, and we tend to make it work for kids because we don't want them to fail. That's not in our DNA as educators, but we will be going back to like the ABC thing.
How many kids per classroom?
So we don't know that until we know what the parent survey and what people respond to us. That I don't know that. I don't have that answer yet.
Okay. Will the same kids stay together throughout the day?
Yes. So we're going to have to be very, very conscious about how we group students once we know who the students are that are coming on an A day and who the students are that are coming on a B day. And that's going to be recommendations from the teachers, recommendations from parents. Di already has that all. So we'll be working hard once we figure out who's actually going to be in front of us, which days they're going to be coming in. We'll be very conscious of, who's with who. We don't want to set kids up for disaster.
So let me just jump in here a bit. So again, I think a lot of these questions will be answered when Mr. Goyette goes through the hybrid model. And the hybrid model is an A group and a B group. So the A group will go Monday and Tuesday, the B group will go Thursday, Friday. Because we have to deal with siblings, because we have to be logical about how we break up the students, the first thing we're going to do is break the students up by alphabet and find that breaking point in the alphabet where it's 50-50 to the best of our ability. Then we go to siblings and make sure that siblings in all the different schools have the same schedule. From there, there'll be some fine tuning. But at this point in time, I just have to tell parents, we're not going to be able to take requests and, oh, my child wants to be with this other child because they're friends. It is just going to be way too complicated to do that. And I would say that class sizes based on the first survey and people choosing remote, you're talking about class sizes anywhere from 10 to, say, at the most 14 students in any one class. So they're going to be very small class sizes.
Okay, so that answered the latest question about the limit of students in a classroom. Back to the kind of carpooling neighborhood question, could a parent directory be created? The comment is that we've had them at other schools and found it to be a great resource.
Mr. Friend?
So, as I said earlier, we need to help you. And so if there are ways that we can help you, we will. We just can't be giving out parent information. We would have to figure out a way for parents to give us permission to give other parents' information out to parents. So it'll be a little bit complicated, but I think to be fair to you, we have to find out a way to help you in any way we can.
Okay, thank you. And then I just wanna, this is an important one to address. Just curious as to why is the high school moving to a 4x4 block schedule, but the middle school is staying with a 7-period schedule?
Again, we felt like we wanted to see the kids every day. We wanted to get FaceTime with the kids every day. And we didn't want to limit, you know, that 4x4 block schedule was really, when I put it together and made it work for the middle school, it was a much better, and believe me, I've presented every schedule I've created to the staff, and by all means, the staff all agreed that the 7-period day was in the best interest of kids.
And I think too, Mr. Goyette, with the 4x4 block schedule, where you have 4 classes from, say, September to mid-January, and then they end, and then you get a new set of classes for the remainder of the year, just developmentally, middle school kids aren't ready to miss a half a year of instruction and have those gaps. They need to have the consistency of having their classes year round, just in my opinion.
Thanks, Ann.
Perhaps in the survey, okay, this is good. There could be a question about allowing your info to be disclosed to a parent directory. Since the data is already being collected, it could be done all at once. And that was just a thought or suggestion that I will write down.
Thanks, Ann.
Yep. And I think we're clear.
Okay, so what does the day look like? So the day for a student comes in from 7:20 to 7:40, they go directly to period 1 class. Teachers will be monitoring the kids as they get permission to go to their lockers. We're asking only locker usage for coats. Students will be bringing their backpacks with their supplies from class to class to class. We did it before. We're going to minimize the amount of stuff that kids have to carry. You know, in the past, you'd look at a kid, a 6th grader, and you see their backpack and it'd have everything but the kitchen sink. We're really going to be asking kids, you know, and we'll probably have to monitor, like, open up your knapsack. Let's look at this. This needs to go home. This needs to stay home. But we will be asking kids to bring stuff with them because we can't share materials. That is the bottom line. As you can see, we built the day with 55 minutes at the beginning of the day, just so we could have morning announcements and the pledge, moment of silence, 5 minutes in between each period, 45 minutes. That's also building in a little mask break in there, how the teachers determine that, or it could also be in the 5 minutes to pass. I can't see kids going 45 minutes with a mask on in a class. It just is not reality. We did break up lunch so that 6th grade would eat first, 7th grade would have a split lunch, which is not ideal. 8th grade would have last lunch. We can switch those lunches around so that 7th grade doesn't consistently have a split lunch. When I use the word split lunch, as you can see, when you look at 5th period, you have a 20-minute block, then you go to lunch, and then you come back for the other 25 minutes. It's not great, it's not ideal. And we can definitely move it around so that not a whole grade level gets stuck with split lunch. And then at the end, we've given it a little bit more time because we all know that as soon as the kids look up at that clock and it's 1:55, they're done. They're waiting to pack up. They're waiting for the end of the day announcements. So I made that last period a little bit longer so that way we know we have an attention span of 45 minutes and 5 minutes just to kind of say goodbye to the kids and pack up. And
Okay.
anything?
Yep. When will school supply lists be available?
So school supply lists are coming. I'm working with all of the teams to figure out what exactly is essential to make the day. I mean, I can't see us asking kids to bring a ton of stuff and they don't use anything. You know, so realistically, as soon as the teachers give me that list, I'll go through it with them and make sure it's actually a real list of what we need. And then that'll go out in a couple weeks.
Then there was a question about grouping the cohorts. Will the student's academic ability be taken into consideration? If the class is split alphabetically, that does not bode well for those on either end of the academic spectrum. So we're going to try to mix them up as much as possible.
Oh yeah. All the A's are not going to be together. All the B's are not going to be together. Once we know what the kids are coming, again, we're going to try to place kids in different levels and different groups and try to make it as even as possible.
Correct. Is the allotted mask break time shown on the schedule?
No. It's going to have to be, you know, let's say it's second period, you're in foreign language. We're going to start and we're going to do a 10-minute review game with the eggs and what's that called?
The expert.
Expert. And then we're going to take a break. We're going to go outside. We're going to take 5 minutes to kind of take that mask break. Then we're going to come in and we might take a quiz. And then once the quiz is done, then we might end up coming up with like the next lesson portion. Teachers are really good about chunking things throughout the period. They're just going to know where is the chunk, where's the break. That's when I'm going to take kids out. And it's going to be an individual teacher. And of course, we're going to have to make sure the teachers all know, okay, that's why they're really going to have to do a lot of planning as far as, okay, this is when I'm taking my kids out during the day and planning it out so now the whole 7th grade all goes out one door at the same time. It's going to take some serious planning.
Okay, I think I got them all, so I think you're clear to move on.
Okay, so for the weekly schedule, what does that hybrid look like? Again, we're going to be breaking kids up by alpha to determine which days they're going to be coming. So if you look at Monday and Tuesday, group A would be coming in. On Thursday, Friday, group B is coming in. All students do remote learning on Wednesday. So what does that look like for a kid? I'm in group A. I come in, I see Mr. Friedman for 2 days, and then he gives me the rest of the work that I'm responsible for that correlates to the 2 days that I've had. And then those 3 days I'm working remotely. There will be time for them to check in and say, hey, Mr. Friedman, I'm having a problem with this. Can you help? On the flip side, group B is coming in on Thursday, Friday. They'll be given, here's all the stuff that you need to do. We'll see you next Thursday. And they have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to get all of that done. It's going to be a little bit of a, how do we keep kids aligned? How do we keep them on the same kind of like learning schedule? That's initially, it's going to be a little tough, but eventually we'll catch up with that. So again, students receive on the hybrid model 2 days of in-person learning and then 3 days of independent work with limited support.
And just to point out, on the Wednesday when students are remote learning, teachers will be in the building for a half day doing planning, preparation, organization, team meetings, department meetings, parent communication. And then in the afternoon, teachers will be all remote from home while the custodians are doing a really deep clean of the school in between the two cohorts. So that Wednesday, provides a chance for both groups to be checking in with their teachers, teachers to be communicating with parents and with each other. So that's an important thing to note, is that teachers are available on that Wednesday for students. Okay. Let's see. This is back to desks. Will there be trifold cardboard or some sort of polycarbonate on the desks?
Mr. Friend? Did Mr. Friend leave me?
I don't think I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't think we're planning on putting anything on top of the desks so we can clean them.
Yeah, we're
I don't
not.
know okay.
Right now, the desks will be at least 6 feet apart in every classroom. And so we will not be doing that. There'll be in some locations, if we have, you know, specialized services in some area, let's say you had to be tested in some way, or there's a small OT, PT, some speech areas, we might use some of that. But for the most part, because only half the students are coming in, we'll easily maintain a minimum of 6 feet in all locations.
Okay, thank you. Will they have Zoom meetings on the remote days, or is it all self-directed?
It's going to be all self-directed. There will be potentially on Wednesday, you know, office hours where you can check in with your teachers.
Okay. Why not spread out the days more like Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday?
So we went back and forth on that, and then when it came time to really say, where's the line in the sand, we were reminded by the Department of Health that it makes more for safety and the health of our students and staff to have 2 days with one group, do a deep cleaning in between, and then have the next group come in for the next 2 days. We went back and forth. That was a really big to-do, but in the end, the Department of Health reminded us it is student safety first.
Is there a possibility for children to Zoom in on the class on remote days?
So on remote days, they're going to be teachers are going to be in front of other students. So no.
Will the teachers still be available after school for extra help?
I would sense that yes.
No, the answer is yes. Obviously, the teachers have a union contract, and so we're working on that. So currently in the union contract, teachers are required to stay 2 days a week for, I believe it's like 45 minutes. And as most of you know, most teachers spend a lot more than that. And so the help after school will exist next year, but it will be done remotely. So yes, teachers, so probably what will end up happening when I think about this model, well, I shouldn't speculate, but yet, boy, I just can go on, can't I? The short answer is yes, there will be office hours after school.
Okay. I think this is just because of the way the chart is. Is there a reason that the groups are flip-flopping each week? This chart is just showing that Group A on Monday and Tuesday, when they're at school, Group B is hybrid. They're remote learning at home. And then when Group B is in school, Group A is remote learning at home. So this is just what both groups are doing in a week. I hope that makes sense. Can you define limited support, please?
Mr. Friend? So personally, I think if the kids email the teachers and say, hey, I need a little help with this, teachers are going to respond.
Right.
But it's hard when a teacher.
But I think what you're asking is, yes, this is going to fall again a lot on parents. I have no doubt that our teachers, if a child has a problem with something, they go home on Tuesday, they're getting 3 days of worth of work from each teacher. That's a lot for a young kid. And they're going to get home and they're going to say, oh man, I forgot exactly what he wanted us to do on this. and he sends the teacher an email. I can't imagine a teacher not responding to that email. They might not respond, that very moment, but at some point within the day or within 24 hours, they will get back to the student. But yes, this is going to fall, again, a lot on parents to support their children at home, because while your child is at home, the teachers are working with a whole nother group of students. And really, the reason why we made these small groups is so that when the students are in school, they're going to get such individualized attention, because there's only going to be 10 to 12 kids on average in any classroom. But yeah, unfortunately, during COVID-19, this puts a lot on the backs of parents, and that's a reality that we can't ignore, and there's only so much we can do with that.
Okay. Will an outside vendor be used for the remote learning like the high school? So that's talking more about the remote model, but I think we can just answer that now.
We're gonna get
So,
to that.
but to answer that question, I'm not going to answer the whole question, but the state is going to come out. The state has put out a request for proposal to offer a education management system. We're planning on using that for the high school, unless the system makes no sense, and then we may look at it down a different path. However, depending on the what is available in that platform, we may look to purchase bits and pieces of the platform if it would help support our kids. So the state is supposed to come out this week with the 2 different platforms that they're purchasing, and they're going to offset some of the cost, and then it'll be a shared cost between all of the districts across the Commonwealth. Again, so if we look at this, based on the conversation we just had about parents, being responsible for the kids for those 3 days with limited support from teachers, if one of these platforms gives us a way to help you as parents and help our teachers, we will certainly explore that.
Okay. Is there a deep cleaning on the weekend as well before Group A comes back in?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so I am thinking, and again, I live in the world of budget, and I have to live within a budget, but we did receive a substantial grant, and in that grant, we've put in to bring in extra custodial staff. And I would imagine that what I'm probably going to do is have a crew come in probably Saturday morning and do another cleaning, just to be double sure.
Okay. We talked about teacher support. We're getting to the full remote model next, and we'll explain that. Why not Group A all days 1 week? Deep clean once on the weekend to keep costs down, and then Group B all days the following week.
So the teachers recommended, they wanted to see both groups during the week. It's really, I think for kids, I see you all week and then you're gone for the week. That's really hard for a middle schooler. We're asking kids right now to do 3 days of independent work. I think it's really, really hard when we say, okay, we've seen you for 5. Now we'll see you in another week. 5 days of independent work by themselves. I think that's a lot to ask 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And that's just not my opinion. That was the entire middle school staff's opinion.
Yes. Will kids on IEPs receive the same support or modifications?
Yep.
So hold on.
Yep.
We will be having a meeting for special education parents. But obviously, if you have an IEP and it says you get OT, PT, and speech 4 out of 5 days, obviously, we're going to have to provide that service. So it just depends on what the IEP details and what is expected. And we're going to be working that out on an individual basis with those families.
Okay. Will there be snow days anymore? Or are we going to start switching to remote learning on the snow days?
Yes.
So the calendar that's going to come out, I'm presenting a calendar to the school committee on August 10th. And once the calendar is finalized, whatever that last day of school is, that'll be the last day of school. There will be no snow days.
Okay. This is a great suggestion. What about developing a student tutoring system with the high school students? Maybe some would be interested in Zoom teaching and helping out.
That's
Love
always,
that idea.
that's always
Yeah.
something that we do with Diane. Diane does reach out to high school students. She pairs them up with kids who are struggling by parent recommendation or by teacher recommendation. And we have had a lot of success with that.
I would say to parents, especially of younger kids, we have great kids in our town. We have great high school students. And, you know, if I'm a parent and I've got kids and I have to work, we have so many responsible kids in our high school, in our middle school, across the board. But if you're looking for help, you know, we'll try to figure out a way to help you in that regard, but it makes such great sense going forward.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to this individual who said that there's another meeting at 6:30 for the sixth graders. So can we just kind of maybe move along and hold questions until the end, just so we can make sure we get through everything?
Okay. So option 2 is the remote, again, subject to change, but this would be full-on remote. And again, this came back from the committee that worked and gave their recommendations. So what does it look like if I'm a remote student? Remote student is going to maintain a virtual schedule Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, with Wednesdays dedicated to extra help and check-in. That means kids are going to start their day at 7:40. They're going to do a synchronous meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, daily announcements, and then they're going to Zoom to their first period ELA teacher. And there's going to be Miss Stasa, and she's going to provide those kids with a 30-minute lesson. And there may be breakout groups, there may be surveys, just to maintain focus and attention, because a half an hour is a long time that we have learned through being remote this past time. 30 minutes is a lot, but we can do a lot in 30 minutes. We're going to have, just to cut down a little bit on screen time, we're going to give kids a break, 10 to 15 minutes, and then they're going to Zoom their next class. And the teacher there, that might be Mr. Cummings. And Mr. Cummings has prepared a lesson based on whatever the kids are doing in the A group or the B group. They're going to get the same, but very different, same curriculum that's being delivered either Monday, Tuesday, or the Thursday, Friday. It's just going to be broken up a little bit remotely. Students will be held for attendance. They have to leave their video on so the teachers or an IA can monitor what's happening in the room. Grading is going to be the same grading system for every single kid, if they're remote or hybrid. We're going to have clear due dates. The daily and weekly assignments, support services would be done remotely. The key factor in this is there will be a point person for all of the students who work remotely. We had really great success with that. So that way those kids are going to be assigned one person, and that person maybe on Wednesday will reach out to them and say, okay, I have you from 12 to 12:30. How's it going? What do you need? What do you need for help? Oh, okay, you need to see Mr. Cummings. Okay, I'll make sure that he gets a hold of you. We're going to use Google Classroom as we always do. We'll be posting the assignments. We're still working on the details of what exactly does this look like. I like to think that on Monday, I might be able to see what exactly we're doing for the whole week. But know that I am going to class every day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 7:50 to 2 o'clock. And then, of course, all grades will be posted via iPass with the contractual 2-week period. I think I got it all.
You did. Okay. So just a question. A parent is a little bit confused. Are these our options? If the school is doing option 1, we can do option 2. So she's asking if they have a choice.
So that comes to my next slide. So the next slide is parent surveys are going to be sent out August 10th with clear choices for the upcoming school year. you will need to make that choice between the 10th and the 14th. Just using the information I've done today, up until the 14th to decide what makes more sense for you and your family and for your children. And you'll have to decide by the 14th, which option are you going hybrid or all remote? And then from the 14th, we can figure out who's actually going to be in front of us. The kids who are remote will be assigning into classes, and then we'll go from there. But it's really important.
Yeah, it's very, very important, parents, that you make that decision with the understanding that you start out the year and you go a couple of weeks and you say, yeah, this remote full-time learning's not working for my child. My child wants to see his friends. He wants to go back, and we will allow that. But we want to control that switching back and forth so that kids, we probably will do it on a month-by-month basis or something like that, just so there's not this frequent switching back and forth, and allow your child to experience, probably a month of either option before you make a decision to switch. Obviously, if you're just having fights with your child at home, which we don't want, but I raised 3 children myself. I know what it's like. We will work with you on that. So if you're halfway through the month, you're like, I just can't do this anymore, I need to switch the option, we will let you do that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goyette, will Sutton teachers be designing and teaching their own lessons for the 100% remote option?
Yes. In their day, we've designed it. And believe me, we started this process. I looked it up. It was like May 26th. I came out with the schedule of, you will be teaching 4 classrooms with 4 in-person classes and 1 remote class. What does that look like? And so everybody from May understood and were aware that I am going to be responsible for creating lessons for a remote class. Now, based on the survey, maybe it's going to be 2 classes that are going to be remote. Maybe it's 3 classes that are going to be remote. We won't know that until parents tell us exactly what they want for their child.
Great, thank you. When is the special ed meeting, and is it going to be prior to the survey?
Mr. Friend?
I'm not exactly sure when we're going to have this special education survey. But if it's not before the 14th, I would reach out to your team leader, to the special ed director, your principal, seek guidance from those folks and get their recommendation, and we will help you. It's just kind of a crazy time for all of us right now, when we did just hire a brand new special education director. So she's coming in and doesn't know any of the students yet. So I would rely on the principals, maybe a teacher that you're close with, and get their opinion. And if for some reason we can't have that meeting before the 14th and you go in one direction and then, again, we don't want a lot of this to happen. I keep kind of contradicting myself here, but we want to work with each and every one of you. We do not want anyone, we're all stressed. Everybody's on pins and needles, and we're just trying to minimize the amount of changes we have to do, but we will work with you.
Great, thank you. If a family decided to homeschool, I'm guessing that's the 100% remote option, would sports still be available?
No, so homeschooling's different. I think that's what they're asking. So if you homeschool your child and do your own education, or if you do remote, and if we do have sports, that's a big question mark. Yes, you can. If you homeschool your child, you can participate in after-school activities, no matter what.
Okay, great. Is the school providing hotspots to families that need one?
I'm not sure the answer to that question, but if there is a problem with internet service for a family, they should reach out to the school, to their principal, and we will work with them to see what we can do to get them internet service, yes. Most people have it. We did a survey. It was, I want to say, over 95%. But again, if that 5%, if there's a handful of families that need help, reach out to us right away. We will help you. Same thing. We're not going to be able to start the year off with a one-on-one device. We have purchased another 100 iPads, and we're putting in a grant to purchase another big chunk of iPads. The problem is Chromebooks. I'm sorry, Chromebooks. Ultimately, we hope to have a Chromebook in everyone's possession before the end of the year. We just have to figure out how best to pay for that. But again, and we're going to Chromebooks so we have a consistent technology tool. But if you have a iPad or a laptop, we'd strongly recommend that your child, I know in the lower grades, we're recommending to bring those to school so that kids can learn how to use those devices when they're remote learning. Again, a long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That was the next question. Will the school have Chromebooks available? Just a comment that Sutton Library provides a couple of hotspots to borrow. And that's it for right now for questions in the chat. But, a couple parents have just, caregivers, I want to be mindful of the comments here. I just have to get back there. I'm sorry. One of the frustrations that I have as superintendent is that right now there are so many different models being rolled out by each individual town. Yes.
And so right in our neighborhood, you have Northbridge that is, I believe, announcing they're going full remote. Grafton is doing an every other week model. Millbury is doing a similar model to Sutton. Hopedale is doing a similar model to Sutton, but there are just such varying degrees. And then unfortunately, what's going to happen is parents are going to say, God, I wish I was doing what Grafton was doing. And Grafton saying, I wish I was doing what Sutton. It's a very unfortunate situation that we have all of these different models being rolled out. But at this point, we couldn't wait around for the state any longer to make decisions. We had to start working toward this. They're asking us to have a plan to the state on August 10th, and we're going to be starting school. And by the way, we're going to start school after Labor Day for students. That still doesn't give a lot of time for families to make plans. And so that's why we're coming out now and letting you know that it is going to be a hybrid model. You can choose remote learning. And our teams of educators, the parents on these committees, the administrators, and the health experts in the community, we landed on this model, and for a variety of different reasons, hundreds of different reasons. So I hope you understand that a lot of thought went into this. It wasn't just, let's start with this. We looked at all of these different options, and this is what we've settled on.
Okay, I think that addresses the ones I was going to go back to. If the governor closes schools again, will remote students still be, okay. Will remote students still be taught by the outside vendor?
That's a high school thing.
That's a high school thing.
So the beauty of our schedule right now, that all students would be able to transfer right to remote learning based on their schedule. And I unfortunately, I have that other 6th grade parent meeting. Yep. So please, by all means, if you have any questions, email me. I am more than happy to email you back. If you prefer a phone call, leave me your number. I'll give you a call back. This is going to take a village, and I'm part of the village. So if you need me and you have questions, if I don't have the answer, I'll find out what the answer is and get back to you. But I just want to say again, thank you to all of you to participate in this presentation. And again, I can't thank the teachers and the staff enough. I mean, they really, summer vacation was not the same summer vacation that everybody experienced in the past, because I was kind of a pit bull and would call and ask people opinions and send stuff out pretty much weekly. And we did do a lot of staff meetings throughout the summer, which was 100% that staff showed up. So,
I also want to say thank you to the parents. The parents of this community have been incredibly supportive, incredibly understanding, and I hope you can maintain that with us because, let's face it, what we've just presented to you tonight, it's a little unnerving. It's going to put a lot of pressure on families, and if there are any problems, if you're seeing your child having difficulty, please call a teacher, please call the principal. We're going to add additional adjustment counselors to the schools, and we need to be partners through this whole process. So again, thank you so much for all your support, and we look forward to a very exciting and a very different school year in 2020-21. So thank you.
okay, and are you back?
You want to stop recording?
I'm going to stop recording. Okay. Stop recording. Stop sharing. And I think we're done.
Yes. I just want to make sure I copy and paste all these into a doc.